Hello, welcome to the Breaking Free podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Francis. Today, very grateful, very humble to be joined by Jenna McClelland. Jenna is so many things, but she's a spiritual healer and a space holder for the divine masculine, which is why I reached out to her. She was on a podcast a few weeks ago, and yeah, just unbelievable how you could just reach out to someone that you've never met before, and then you have a chat for half an hour, and you feel like you've met them in many lifetimes over. So, Jenna, welcome to my show. So happy
Yeah,
to have you
thank
here.
you.
We have a lot of things to talk about today, and these are things that, well, topics are, there's no topic off limits here with this show now, but this topic is close to my heart, as you know, and I'm just, yeah, super excited to have you here. So, Jenna, welcome. How you going? And who are you? What do you do? And then let's have a chat for the next however long. So, welcome.
Oh my gosh. Nathan, thank you so much for inviting me to be on your podcast. Gosh, my heart is pounding because we just came in from like really hot conversation for the past
Hmm.
30 minutes.
Imagine if we
Uh,
put that out to the public.
oh my God, I know. If only. And then he's already visiting me. He's coming to Texas. So
Yeah,
we
no.
already have like a really good friendship. Um, I guess a little about me. I am a spiritual healer and space holder for the divine masculine, and I help men heal from trauma, including the trauma of circumcision. It has been a long journey getting here, and I have definitely experienced my own heroine's journey of pain, of grief, of loss, of believing in something bigger than me and choosing to follow that light, choosing to follow this energy, this profound sensation that I feel in my heart when it came to leaning into exposing and learning how to help men heal from such a deep wounded trauma. That is one of the biggest spiritual wounds that is placed upon the masculine. Getting into the story is just kind of like, I guess we can start with my awakening. I've always questioned the system, and I've always hated banks for some reason. And now I know a lot about like the fake currency situation that
Hmm.
we're all dealing with. I've always hated banks. I always hated the news. And I always knew that there was something more to life than what we were all being fed and what was in front of me. And I've always been curious about the spiritual. I've always been intrigued. And I was a yoga teacher for about 10 years. And I had my own yoga studio where I would work with small groups. I had, one-on-one clients. And I've just really enjoyed working with people and being vulnerable and connecting and developing deeper and richer relationships so that a level of healing could surface or resolve during movement, during asana. And it was through this time and right before COVID hit, I had chronic asthma that I suffered from immensely since I was about 6 years old. And I also had a lot of trouble with my feminine processes. I was very ashamed of my body all throughout my life. I was very ashamed of my period, of my bleed every month. I did everything to hide the fact that I bled. It wasn't something that I ever enjoyed talking about. It was such an inconvenience, and I never wanted children. So there was just really nothing about how my body was developing, and this woman that was starting to blossom through this evolutionary healing process. It was always a challenge, and even within my sexuality and my sexual relationships with men or my sexual relationship with my husband, and why was I more comfortable with men seeing me than I actually was of seeing myself.
Mm.
And which is a thing that a lot of women do. We outsource, and we're totally okay with having multiple partners. It's not that I had multiple partners. I've always been like a I guess I've always just wanted one penis. Like
Yeah.
I've never like, I was never someone that was really out there because it's just a whole thing. And gosh, I said that and I'm kind of like, oh my God, I can't believe I just said it about me. Like really liked one penis. And here I am like rescuing penises globally. But
Oh man.
like it's interesting how a lot of women are giving their body away and they're more comfortable with strangers seeing them, putting their fingers inside of them,
Mhm.
touching them, entering them, and yet they can't really see themselves. They can't touch themselves. They can't enter themselves. And there is a lot of repression and shame
Mhm.
all stuck within our womb, within our sexual creative pussy, essentially. And it was in right before 2020 when I said, you know what? I had a horrible asthma doctor at the time, and he was incredibly dismissive and never gave any hope that I would ever get better. It was always something you managed.
Mm.
And he really upset me one afternoon. And I remember I walked out saying, I'm done. Like, I will never go back to this doctor's office. I will never go back to any doctor's office. I've seen some healing through my yoga practice, and I'm going to try this a different way. So I ended up finding a Chinese medicine doctor who ended up becoming extremely pivotal in my awakening. And then, we're leading into removing all of the garbage from food, lots of dairy. What are the fragrances, cleaning supplies, laundry detergents, like makeup, all different types of things.
Mm.
And that started to wake me up to realizing how toxic our world is.
Mhm.
And COVID hits. It's this crazy clusterfuck. And I was just starting to breathe for the first time in my life. And then society was trying to put
Oh
a
yeah.
symbolic gag order on
Mm.
everybody. And which to me was extremely humiliating. I was like, I refuse to be humiliated by this cult in this way. And I refuse to wear a mask. It makes me want to suffocate. I never bought a mask. And I basically was like, kind of what you were saying to me earlier. Like, I said, no, like, you can fuck off. I want my groceries. I want my stuff, and like, give it to me.
Mm.
And I experienced so much rage and this huge awakening of, pedophilia and the birth certificate and the global parasitic control
Mm. Oh.
elite. Like, I hate calling them elite. I hate even calling them the powers that be, because
Powers that
they
shouldn't
don't
be.
have any. The shower that shouldn't be, but I just don't
Mm.
even want to put the word power next to
They had
them.
only power. We're taking it away, right?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And here we are doing it right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And it was just like, okay, well, here you are. You're finally standing up for yourself in this new way. You're breathing again. You're claiming your life. You're seeing all these things for what they are. And I just decided to go deeper into, okay, well, why don't I want to have children? Why
Ooh.
am I still afraid of the fact that I have a period? And like, I basically like hide it from my husband. And I had been with my husband for about 6 years at the time. So it was just, why are you doing this? Why are you neglecting yourself, Jenna? Like, what is this huge rejection that you have towards your femininity? Why can't you accept this about yourself? And the lungs are in the energy of grief and sadness. And so I realized that not being able to accept the fact that I was a woman and I was growing into a woman's body, that created a lot of sadness in me, because it was something I couldn't control.
Mm.
And I held on to that heaviness. And so as soon as I started to ask all these different questions about why these things are in front of me, why I'm insecure, and it was kind of just like the lid blew off, and I started to see extreme and even more depth and healing, and less need to try to fix society outside of me and like try to force people to wake up, to turning that energy back into me, and
Mm.
what I am evolving into and what it is that I am learning. How can I share this with other women? And I started to have more conversations with other women and saying, I've been doing more yoni gazing. I've been having a deeper self pleasure practice. I'm loving myself more. I'm able to look at myself in the mirror now. What is your experience? And then they just kind of started to go off on me, telling me all of the things that they have and how much shame that they also experience, just as much as I was as well. So this led me to developing a women's sexual healing brand called Elure, where I make homemade organic sexual intimacy products, like oils, like yoni oils. And they all have alchemical practices connected to them that help them use their sexual energy and just love their body in the moment. Like, how can you create a sacred space and put a lot of attention into yourself for this moment for 30 minutes and just really see your body for how beautiful it is?
Love that.
And yeah, and as I would thank you, and as I was evolving, and going deeper into my pussy and going deeper into my experience, I was going to take this business on. I closed the yoga studio, and I was living in North Carolina. Um, and then one night, I was 2 nights before I turned 36. I had a dream where I was a witness to a newborn baby boy being circumcised in a medical setting, and it turned my life upside down. And there, I will never forget that baby. I will never forget the way that he turned and looked at me. I will never forget the energy exchange of him being
Oh,
very strong about maintaining, be like, he was holding me there while I was there, and literally said, like, through the energy exchange, you need to see this.
oh, I
See
got
this.
goosebumps.
Look at my pain. Yeah. Oh yeah. Like, look at my pain. See me. And he had the same type of reaction that the babies actually do have in whenever they are getting circumcised today. And all of the tools were also there as well. So like all the medical tools, like everything in the setting was exactly what it was. And I knew about circumcision. I went down the rabbit hole in 2020 when, I said I got all of the um, the pedophilia stuff, and when everything started to open up in my portal of, what this world is, and the veil
Mm,
started to lift. And Janice Barcelo was on, she showed up on, I forgot what podcast I was listening to, and she started talking about circumcision, and it really rattled my world then, but it was nothing like this dream in
that's
this
crazy.
capacity. So yeah, woke up the next day, um, pleading with God, please don't ever let me come back as a baby boy. Please don't ever put me into a situation like that. And cried and wept for a really long time. And it took over a week for me to even share the story without hysterically crying and knowing what to do about it.
That's unreal. Yeah, because I remember you talking about that dream in the podcast I listened to, and yeah, like it's such a, and as you said in that podcast too, which you'll probably say here as well, it's like we have the, like, I love what you said in it where you're like, we can bang the door down with the whole jab thing, but there's underlying truths under that now, and this is one of them. This is a huge trauma for all men out there that have had this happen to them. And I love when you said that. It brought me to tears because, I haven't shared this publicly, but I've been circumcised and I was super angry about it 4 years ago when I went down the rabbit hole myself. And when you said that, it just brought me to tears. And I think I told you in the email I sent you, like, you brought me to tears a few times in that podcast because it's like I was reliving something that happened to me when I was born. Wild.
Yeah. And I've had a lot of guys since that podcast reach out to me, and they've all said the exact same thing,
Mm,
that they were in tears, they cried, they didn't want to be there any, like they didn't want to listen, but there was a part of them that was really making them listen,
I
and
felt that.
they kept going back to it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just, and it just brought up so much for me. Like I'm sitting here really uncomfortable right now, but I was just gonna ask you, like, what, like, because you also then, because you gave solutions as well. We can give them here too. So what what happens and why is it happening, and how can men understand this trauma? Because people will say, "Oh, you were only a newborn. You can't remember." It's like, well, if you look into the subconscious, yes, you fucking can. So it's like, yeah, let's dive into it. So how, why are the first two
Yeah.
questions I have.
So when you're asking how, you mean how does the procedure
Yeah,
go
let's
down? Or
just
you
talk
wanting
about.
like
Yep, let's
details
go there as well.
of
Yep,
that?
yep.
Yeah. So circumcision is an extreme torture to newborn baby infants that have recently exited the womb. They still have such a profound level of innocence tied to them. They're still very much connected to the etheric realm, where they just literally came through the portal of a woman's womb, and they are in a perfect target for anything that wants to devalue a human and have a lasting effect and impact on their life. to have a baby who needs to be fully connected to mother, skin to skin contact, and to remove him, that removal of pulling him away and taking him by the doctor is already going to start him is going to become, his nervous system is going to become frantic because he's never been distant from his mom. He was just inside of her and connected to her. His identity does not fully separate, nor does a female's, a girl's identity. No baby's identity truly separates until about 6 to 9 months. And I have some people who tell me it could even be longer than that, because there is an integration phase of still coming in and being fully taken care of mom. I mean, having mom fully take care of you. And because his identity is still very much connected and webbed to mother, everything that happens from the moment that the doctor, the nurse takes the baby until the circumcision, even before the circumcision happens, there's already this huge line of abandonment that starts to happen. And the nervous system will start to already create a lot of cortisol, and it doesn't know where he is and where mom is supposed to be. So they strapped infants down to these circumcision boards called circumstrants. And the circumstrants, I remember when I first saw it, I hadn't yet looked into, I hadn't seen any videos yet. It took me a while to finally get the courage to watch a video of a baby being circumcised. I remember seeing my first photo that's imprinted deeply in my soul. And even when I first saw the circumstrant, to me, that was enough information, because it's the imprint of a baby boy's body in a plastic or a wooden board. And the arm imprints that are indented into this device have Velcro straps. So it looks very much like a crucifixion to me, because they are crucifying him from the wrist, from the arms down, and then from the legs down. So the only thing that can move is his head. And they will stuff his mouth with sugar water. They will stuff his mouth with pacifiers. And now I actually just uncovered that they started stuffing their mouths with a device that will pump vomit out of their mouth as they're being cut, because it is very likely that babies will defecate and vomit before lapsing into unconsciousness while they're being cut, because 96% of circumcisions go without anesthesia. And if there is to be anesthesia, they would not be able to provide enough numbing for the infant, because what it would take to fully numb him would kill him. If they do try to use a cream, then the cream actually is already toxic to a newborn baby's skin. And within the insert sheets of the manufacturer of the EMLA cream, they have documented that it's created blisters on the baby's foreskin prior to getting because the foreskin is also adhered. So now we're going into, okay, there's hardly any numbing. And plus these babies are in an assembly line order. Like they're getting a lot of money for this. So they want to get these babies down, latch them to these circumstrants, and in an assembly line order within 15 minutes, they want to get the procedure done. And they don't have time, nor are they going to wait for the effects of any anesthetic to actually begin to work. So if we're using any type of anesthetic, if we're injecting, even thinking about the injection itself on your genitals, if you're a woman, imagine an injection on your clitoris, because the foreskin actually contains, and there's been doctors who have shared with other intactivists in the field that the foreskin contains up to 100,000 nerves. It's extremely innervated. And even considering putting an injection around a baby's genitals this quickly after exiting the womb and then being on a circumstrant, he's cold, he is completely exposed, all of his clothes are off, and he has things coming in his mouth that he doesn't even know, and where his wall, right? And so he's essentially about to be attacked. So the foreskin also can be named as the prepuce, which is more of the anatomical term, is adhered to the glans, which is the head of the penis. So the foreskin stays adhered to the head of the penis because it has biochemical compounds in it that actually have antiviral proteins, antibacterials, and different kinds of protective mechanisms to prevent it from getting dirty or for anything to happen. So let's say, for example, you've cut your son, you have an open wound in his diaper, but yet he's peeing all over his open wound and in a diaper with feces. But yet this is under a narrative of cleanliness and hygiene and less infection for like some people who are choosing to subscribe to the propaganda at hand by the medical cult. So the foreskin is adhered. And what they do is they have to literally abruptly yank and lift the foreskin up, depending on what device. There's multiple devices that they use. And this, I'm going to essentially be referring it to the Morgan clamp. They'll lift the foreskin up, and then they have to take like a scalpel. They'll have to take a knife device to put it inside of the between the inner foreskin and around the glands. And basically like you're skinning a cat, you're skinning a deer, and they skin and rip the adhering, which is, I don't really remember the name of the compound that's creating the adhering, but it's similar to our fingernails. And they will create this slice to kind of separate the glands from the foreskin, pull the foreskin back up, run it through a clamp, and then crush and cut the skin off. Sometimes there'll be botched circumcisions, like they will take parts of the glands, they will take so much of the skin that the penis will actually invert inside of itself like a belly button, because it's the skin and all of the trauma that happened to the area, the ligaments inside of the penis will actually loosen, and it will suck back into the skin of the baby. So it'll be basically right inside, right behind the pubis mound of the male's genital region. A lot of men have not recovered from botched circumcisions. Botched circumcisions also lead to like reconstruction and more cosmetics that they're now getting more money into, and we can get into the finances later. So they're cutting this off in a completely barbaric way, and these babies are going unconscious. They are suffering. There's been people that I've said, or rather that I've read in some studies, that babies have died from their lungs bursting in their chest from screaming so loud from the pain. There can be heavily blood loss. The amygdala will never go back to baseline because there is extreme brain trauma that happens in the limbic system and the brainstem. And later it will create stress disorders, ADHD, ADD. There's like self-destructive behaviors, a lot of anger and rage because it was an extreme violation and abandonment. And then there's also the level of betrayal, in addition to increased anxiety, cortisol production, the hormone of death that is up, I think 1.5 what it normally should be. And even the CIA has recorded it as one of the most traumatic things that can happen to an infant, and how the baby will never trust his parents ever again, and severely the mom, because when the baby comes back, it's difficult for him to look her in the eyes, and breastfeeding goes down. So there's a lot of breastfeeding difficulties. I've had some people that are cranial sacral consults for like milk lactation consults and lip ties and stuff, and she's held babies who maybe a day after they've been cut, and she says they're extremely constipated, they have a lot of tension in their body, they're crying hysterically, they're in extreme discomfort, and the parents are freaking out because they don't know why he's so fussy and what's wrong. And so she'll essentially kind of like have to explain to them this severe level of trauma and shock that's now in his body because of the circumcision. So we're talking about, and let's even take this and a little bit back into more of like the spiritual perspective, like a fresh new soul in a new human's body that has just descended onto earth to be here on an assignment, to be here because he has a purpose, because he is important, is taken and exited out of her womb and laid down onto a sexual torture device, and has the most important and sensitive part of his body ripped off. And then he's given back to his family as if everything should be okay. And later in life, if he were to ever question, ever share his feelings, ever express confusion, he is trivialized, mocked, gaslighted, and rendered in complete isolation. Because what worth was he? Am I worthy of protection? Am I even being seen? Do I even matter? what is the point of me even being here? Do you even care? Maybe it's better if I'm not here, because the amount of suicides that are a result from circumcision are way larger than we could fathom. But it's coming to be extremely apparent based upon now that I'm in the lives of these cut men who are sharing a lot of their stories, how prominent it is for them to want to kill themselves. And whether or not they recognize and connect it to circumcision, there was a mortician and or a funeral director, I can't remember, and he stated he's never once seen an intact man kill himself.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't really have much to say because you're sort of speaking to my heart there, and yeah, I don't really have much to say on that. But
Yeah.
what I, it's that's this is the big one though, right? This is the one, and we talk about all the other things, but no one's talking about this. And why is that?
Yeah. I just think so many people have subscribed, and it's like they can't look into it. I mean, I love that question because like I want to know the answer. Like, you're willing to look deeply into the satanic cult. You're willing to like look deeply into COVID and schmovid and these jabs and these bioweapons. But yeah, and we can all talk about vaccines and we can all have like, oh my God, like blah, blah. But like for some reason we can't talk about the genital mutilation of newborn infant boys. So there's something really deep here. A
Hmm.
lot of it is because either they've been cut and they can't open that door yet, because it takes a brave soul to go this deep into this type of trauma and to actually realize that their parents chose without their consent to put them through the process in which like I just described. And it is not an easy path to go down. Whenever I meet with guys, one of the first things that I tell them is I just have to acknowledge you for the fact that you even like clicked book with me, because it takes a lot of courage and bravery to show up and actually speak up about this. But then we also have the mother, and mom does not want to ever come to the realization that she was deceived and she essentially harmed her son. No mom ever wants to do that, but there is a huge pill to swallow, that radical responsibility, and knowing that, oh my God, like I was tricked into doing this to my son. How am I ever going to forgive myself? How is he ever going to forgive me? What have I taken from him? Because, a lot of these, well, the majority, all of these babies have been robbed. They've been robbed of a sexual experience. They've been robbed of their full sexual capacity to experience love and to experience pleasure. And when I say love, I mean that because the foreskin itself has receptors on it, and the receptors are connected to his brain. And when the foreskin meets with the vagina and with the cervix, they will release neurochemicals that flood into his body and allow him to fall in love and bond.
Interesting.
There is no other part in the male's body that I'm aware of that actually has specific receptors that are tied up through the brainstem and connect into him so he can deeply be vulnerable and fall in love. So not only have we hijacked him and split him in severe shock and trauma, we have also hijacked the mother and father dynamic with the son, the family unit, and then now his up and coming relationship with his new beloved. So this is not just affecting babies and the men that they grow into. This affects mom, this affects dad, and this affects the women. So this impacts everybody. Like, we're all being affected by this, because if you can think of this extreme type of trauma that breaks him and does all of the distortions to the development of who he is, like it's it's just a recipe for these people are walking this earth.
Hmm.
Who are they? What type of decisions are they making? What type of trauma do they have that they're not realizing? How are they in relationships? How are they treating women? Because even in Sweden, they hardly circumcise in Sweden, but over 50% of the rapists and violators are circumcised.
Mm.
And if you were to even look in prisons as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm doing a very good job to keep my emotions out of this and just actually just like be neutral here. But for me, I know that when you were talking about how you treat women in relationships, well, my audience is very well aware of my old life, and I've told you about it an hour ago. And I've done a lot of work around the whole, opening of the heart and stuff. And it's like, that's great, but like this underlying thing has been here with me for a fair while. And I've only just in the last few months started going deep into this stuff on like my own healing journey. And yeah, it was just interesting that I found you around all that. And it's like the next layer of the onion for me as someone that has done some work on themselves. And as you said, it takes a very brave soul to walk through that door. We need more of us to walk through that door. And
100%.
maybe me speaking about this here with you right now, and I'm gonna put my hand up and say it again. I was circumcised. I'm ready to walk through that door. Who's gonna walk with me?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm here to be your cheerleader and to support you. Yeah, in any way that I can, because we need men. We need men to rise. We need men to step back into the authority of who they are and not succumb to these types of tactics, or rather succumb to having more of this trauma and then giving it more out to other people, because trauma begets more trauma. And if you don't heal it in this lifetime, it's going to be passed down to the family. And you're very familiar with this because you're healing a lot of lineage stuff that moves through the morphic field, which enters through our DNA structure
And you know how
and like
deep
who we
that is.
become. Very deep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. So it's just to do everything that you're doing on your current path, and then to also open the door to circumcision. Like you're like me, you're a masochist. You know, I'm like, I want to die and then I want to be reborn, and I want to burn and I want to die and I want to be reborn. And I'm kind of like cancel clear, but that's just like, I'm a really deep Scorpio, and whether the stars have anything to do with this, but I love to go really deep and almost investigate what in within me can take fully advantage of my life in this specific lifetime, so that I can heal the karma, I can show up better, so I can use the tools that I've learned from my own healing and share that with the world and have a deeper, bigger impact. Because with everything that we've talked about, with all these rabbit holes, if we were to really, again, kind of look a little bit more from a expansive viewpoint, this is a spiritual war.
Hmm.
Every tactic, every device, every situation, every psyop, every narrative, everything, the governmental systems, all of that. And when we can remember who we are and deeply lean back into the spirit and go into the spiritual to heal, then that's where we're going to meet the
Oh,
match. Because spiritual warfare equals spiritual healing. You can't have spiritual warfare and then psychological, mental work. You have to really understand and deeply connect with your higher self into the brilliance of who you are, that you were, that you are prior to this circumcision happening, prior to any trauma happening, and prior to your body even coming into form. Because when our body dies, there will be a day that we will take our last breath and our spirit will continue to reside. And if we're not healing that trauma, then we're going to take some of that with us in spirit, because spirit does have some memory. There is still data in the Akashic record. So to think about deeply connecting into the spiritual and utilizing that brilliance, like I said, and then remembering that, okay, I am a spirit inside of a body. This didn't happen to me. Yes, it happened to my body, but it didn't necessarily happen to me. And it is up to us as spirit to make our body a beautiful place to live in, a
oh.
beautiful wonderland to live inside. And that is when we truly get to, I don't think there's ever truly getting to like the mountaintop of healing, but like that's when shit really gets real. Because then you allow yourself to step into a higher spiritual vibration and you gain spiritual equity. So within spiritual equity, what happens is you can start to exist in a plane where a lot of other things that are like bothersome or certain like narcissist, empathic imprints, kind of usually those, that's like a web of something, but you can just coast above it. And a lot of the things that we're facing today just don't affect you anymore because you've done the work on the spiritual against the spiritual war.
Correct.
So do you understand kind of the energy of like what I'm trying to
Yeah,
create
yeah,
as
yeah.
I speak this? It's something that it's been curated to forget our power and be curated to forget and remember who we are because God created us in his image. And we can create 3D just like he did. We could manifest our reality. We can create another human. We are contributing more to the life on earth, and everything else is below that. So when we come to that magnitude in remembrance of the king and queen that we are deeply and on a spirit in a spiritual sense, then it sounds like a winner to me.
Mm. Yeah. And it's interesting too because we're all on different layers here in society, and I know for me during 2020 and 2021 it was a lot of that world truth stuff, but then as my audience know, I was smacked pretty quick with the whole lot, you know. A lot of people have said to me, "Oh, it could take you 30, 40 years to go through the stuff that you just like it's happening quicker on a huge levels where I'm going with this because there's people I'm working with, the younger generation of today, are actually it's not a race, but they're doing it quicker than me. Like they're going to that place, that dark place, whatever that dark place is, they're there and they're clearing it, and then they're off out like so fast.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing, and I think that there's certain things that are being taught. And I'm not dissing any type of healing that's out there at any capacity. I just do think that there is some level of forgetfulness because they have removed the spirit away from science. They've removed spirit from a lot of the things
Yeah,
that we
for a
are
reason.
dealing with on a day-to-day. Exactly. So again, spiritual war, spiritual healing. And that's essentially how I've really begun to help a lot of men because I was gifted the ability to channel the divine Mother Grace energy because he who has been cut, some of those wounds are so deep with his physical 3D mother that no matter how like remorseful she is, no matter how deeply she tries to reconcile, there's always going to be a part of him that he won't be able to fully forgive her. And because I've asked a bunch of men and like, they say, my mom is now an intactivist. My mom's out there. I've had like interviews with her online and she's shown up and I've grilled her and we've had all these conversations. And I've asked him like, well, what do you want from her? What do you want? If she could give you anything in the world, what would it be? And the majority of them say nothing. I don't know. It's because it's too quick, it's too soon, it's too innocent. He has to go back to the origin of where he just was. Remember the tie of his innocence and the tie of the divine that's still very connected to him. Like I know some women who what they do is they have lotus births, and with lotus birth essentially you birth the placenta and you keep the placenta attached to the baby, and the placenta will naturally like release, the belly button cord will eventually separate. And they all say that during that period, when you invite the placenta in, which actually has consciousness, their whole house will be extremely like angelic. That there is something that literally comes in through the portal that is with them and essentially helping him integrate into this new 3D realm. And then after the placenta releases from him, which is that consciousness, like a brother sister that lived in the womb with him, and they experience it. So it is a very profound connection. That's why like a lot of kids still remember. I don't know if you've seen videos of kids remembering past lives,
Yeah,
or they see angels, or they see different things, or you're like, what is what is our little baby looking at? It keeps looking in the corner and back and forth. It's because like they can still see and they can still hear. So this is a place that a lot of these men need to go. And I've been gifted with the Divine Mother Grace to channel for him, to offer him that level of profound healing, to see him, hold him, and validate his experience in whatever medicine that needs to come through me will.
I feel like you challenged her earlier when you were talking about the spiritual warfare stuff.
Yeah, I had a
Uh,
podcast. I had a podcast on, well, I was on the radio last Friday and I rendered the whole audience because there was a whole audience. I rendered the guy speechless. He didn't even know what to say. And I kind of like snapped back out of it. And I was like, oh, hey. And I started crying. I was like, I'm sorry. I didn't expect for that to happen. But I just know so deeply on a cellular level that this is who I am. And I will vouch and I will die on this mountain for these men because it's so deeply in me, is ingrained to be here and to be of service and to spearhead a space that there, I mean, there's some people here, but nobody is really looking into the solution. And to me, that's a true leader. Leadership is when you offer solutions. Sure, we can have exposure. We can talk about the oppression and the problem, but the constant bringing up all that energy, you just become it. So there needs to be a solution. And so my solution has been coming up with these programs and experiencing and walking into the lives of these men because they were shocked when I originally started walking into their lives and asking them questions. And I have like a connection with men from all over the world now because I've showed up for them, because they've come to me and shared some things and they've just been absolutely blown away that they've never had a woman in their life that has ever been able to see them in the way that I've been able to see and hold them. And I'm just it's such a privilege to have tapped into what I've tapped into. And I feel so blessed and honored to have this in my blood and to be in a place that can open the eyes of people and to heal and trickle and ripple this through the webbing of humanity because we are all connected. And if I can make a small little imprint in the collective conscious thought and create some form of shift, then fuck yeah. You know?
if a young man is listening to this, was a lot like me 4 years ago that went down the rabbit hole, what would be your advice to that young man that's listening now that's probably had their world turned upside down just a little bit if they've got an open heart and an open mind? What would be your advice for that young man to take that first step towards that door that we've spoken about a bit here in this chat?
That's a great question. You can heal from this. And there are people that truly do care. And I am one of them. And it is extremely brave to even allow yourself to feel in this moment. And as you feel that, just allow yourself to be in it and be curious about it for a little while. And there are resources and things that can be done. I mean, it just really depends. Like, are you alone? Do you not really have anybody that you can share this with? That's fine. You can reach out to me. I have a community of people. You can talk you can talk with other people that are also here. There's may not be that many, but there are outlets. You may want to experience a lot of rage. You may have a lot of anger coming through. Great. Is how can you start to express some of that in a very healthy, in a healthy
Mm.
way? Because there is a part of that anger that needs to be expressed. One of my best friends, actually, she's one of the most epic somatic healers, and she specializes in anger. And there's a lot of healthy ways to express anger. You know, if you need to journal when you start to get to the point of really processing this, I'm here. Like, you can always reach out to me, and the intactivist community will welcome you with open arms. It is really easy to fall into the space of becoming this victim. And that's what I see really heavily in the intactivist space is there's a lot of men that haven't yet fully they can't digest, they don't know how to digest the anger and the rage. So what they're doing is they're creating so much of this victim, so much of that's been taken away from me. And I'm not minimizing what happened to you at any capacity. There is no minimization for you having been a victim to this fucking torture at all. But there is a moment after you've allowed yourself to experience, get riled in that. I remember I listen to a lot of Tool. I love heavy metal, and like I'll play heavy metal in my office and I'll just like fucking dance and like get it out as much as I can. Like, I have all different types of tools. It is easy to fall into that trap. It is easy to fall into, I desire for those to be punished for this. And that is raw and that is natural. And I have had many days where I have wanted to see people suffer. because of it. But deep down, what we truly and really want is to heal within ourselves. And like I said earlier, learn those tools so that we can share them with other people so they don't have to go through the same suffering that you did. So you've got two sides of the coin. A lot of these men that are still stuck in victim and they're still stuck in this anger and rage, they're trying to get more anger and rage out of other people. This is old world thought. This is old world and dense. Particularly, I don't know if you're familiar with David Hawkins in the consciousness map. It is the lowest of the low, and it is incredibly dense. This is where they want you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to be powerful and take your power back and feel whole again and help others? Or do you want to get angry, get others riled up, have your nervous system be wrecked because you're experiencing a lot of cortisol in your body, which actually will start to imprint into your nervous system to where it becomes automatic. Sometimes we can experience so much stress that the body will start to create that and make it a new normal.
Yep.
So you want to feed and get more anger and like go to the court and like try to sue and have all these fights, or really look into the light of this, and that you can heal from it, and that there is going to be a journey, and you need to accept yourself through that. And I'm here to validate any experience that you have. But for me, deep down, what we know in our soul, what we know to be true deeply, because there's a difference between what's factual and what's truth.
Mm-hmm.
Facts change. Truth is eternal. And our truth is to really look at these things as ways that we can triumph and become better. And having that level of, I don't know, I'm just thinking like being a warrior, and that is fucking awesome. So you just have two choices. And it hurts my heart when I see a lot of intactivists going out there in a lot of rage and screaming and telling other people they're rapists and they're horrible. We're all suffering. All these people that are perpetrating, or rather involved in the procedure and involved in the deception, they're also operating from oppression. They're also operating from trauma. Like I was on a call with that guy that I told you on Friday, and even a lot, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it, even a lot of the Jews and like how the Jews perform circumcision, a lot of it's like, and everyone these days is like blaming the Jews. Everyone's blaming
Uh-huh.
Israel. And sure that we're not going to go there, but yes, but all these people are operating under brainwashing and trauma-based mind control.
Correct.
So they don't know what they're doing. So we're all victims, essentially, is what I'm saying. And if you want to go even deeper into the soul contract of these things, sometimes we come into these lives into these lives in these incarnations, and we can be the victim and we can be the perpetrator.
Yep.
It's like we're all playing these roles for the advancement of each of our soul's journey to heal from these things that happen to us, to heal to these things that we've done to people. I've done some shitty things in my life in my early 20s.
Same here.
Yeah. And like, I'm not proud of it, but I know I played a role, and I've taken full accountability for that, done all the healing that I need to do. And I've learned extreme lessons. And that's what radical responsibility is. That is what being sovereign is. It's
Correct.
anything that comes your way is taking full ownership of it and choosing to not let it keep you down, but how can you use that as fuel to help you excel in this lifetime? Yeah.
Mic drop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It's so true though. Yeah, and that's the big remembrance I've had in the last 5 years is that we're just a meat suit having an experience. And
100%.
you were talking a bit about how we're just spirit in a body, and then if we don't heal and deal with these things, we take that away with us when we die anyway. Well, you failed to mention, not failed to mention, you just didn't mention that you'll come back here and do that all again.
Yes, exactly. It becomes your loop, because these are
Yes,
contracts. And
correct.
sometimes, yeah. And so like right now I have a really big contract, like I'm recently divorced. My husband took really good care of me. I didn't have to provide for us. I've always had yoga. I've always had my passions, but I was never something that I didn't need to bring any money home because my husband made a lot of money. And I've been really fortunate to have like a really amazing upbringing with my father. And he's also wealthy and he does really good for himself. And I've learned a lot from him. But I've had to fully catch myself in, can I support myself alone? I've never had to do this. I'm 36, 37 years old. And I've never had to take care of myself. But it is within my soul's contract in this incarnation to prove to myself that I can handle everything that comes at me financially. I can become resilient and self-sufficient in terms of being able to create wealth in my life and to create a legacy here. And if I can overcome that, then yeah, that loop isn't going to bring me back into the cycle. But that story has played many, many, many times in my life in this lifetime. So we all kind of have our contracts, and they're all here specifically to help us get out of these loops, because ultimately we want to get out of the cycle of samsara. Like, I don't ever want to fucking come back here. Like that's why I'm just like the masochist. I'm like, give it to me. Like, I don't
Yeah.
ever want to fucking come back here ever again, so let's do it now.
Yeah.
And that's just how I operate. And I think when you can look at it in that way, as like almost like it's this beautiful, soulful homework assignment, fucking do it.
Yeah.
It's not easy. It's fucking confusing. And I've burned and crashed many times. But I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for the horrible, the devastating, and the loss that I've gone through. And I would do it again, knowing that I have the power and the strength to speak up about something that not that many people are doing, except for us, what we're doing in this moment right now, which is already creating that ripple effect into fields like I was mentioning earlier.
Mm. Yep. And that's what we're here to do. Keep planting those seeds and keep creating those ripples and keep
Yeah.
lifting the veil for people of the trauma, of the mind control, of all the things so that they can remember on a very deep level who they are and why they're here. And I talk a lot about that in my content too. Once you remember who you
Yeah.
are and you remember why you're here, and that you face that truth of, all these things happen to you. Yeah, but I talk a lot about before I learnt circumcision. I talked a lot about how these things happen to us, and the biggest truth bomb I've said to some people in the last few years has been, well, all these things happen to you, yes, but you were in control of that, and I think that's what I sort of said, and it's like, oh well. Then you look at circumcision, well, it's like, well, you weren't really in control of that one, but everything else happened to you for a reason, and we're all here with contracts, but I don't think circumcision is part of that. So it sort of
Yeah.
humbled me in a sense. Oh, actually, hang on a minute. We weren't in control of that one. Or were we? I don't know.
I mean, if you want me to speak frankly and truthfully, I do think that there are some souls that came in to understand what that was like
Yeah, okay.
and what that contract would be, so that there is something from it that they can learn from that amputation, from that loss.
Oh, yeah, I
What
feel
was
that.
the story of what, the relationship with mom? What type of dynamic is that going to help you understand, and really being able to see yourself and how your wound with her will affect your other relationships. I'm not saying at any capacity that anybody deserves this at all, ever, ever, ever. However, there are certain things that, excuse me, do happen, that I do something as profound as this could be something that you're here to learn something. And as mom, because remember, there's the victim and the perpetrator. So mom is playing that for you in this lifetime.
Mm,
So she also has to go through her own healing journey, knowing what it was like to have done that to her son. That's her lesson. And how do you heal from that as a mom? Because mom is, I mean, I plenty of women in my life that are close to me, and friends of friends of friends, who hate me because they can't accept or see their shield,
yeah.
their protective shield. It has to protect them. And I don't blame them. I think mom's story is horrible. What happens to her is devastating. And to awaken to that is, like, I'm pretty sure I mentioned this earlier, it's another beast to conquer. And it's safer to, just like everybody else with COVID and the job and everything, like, it's easier to put your head in the sand and just to and be ignorant and pretend this doesn't exist, than it is to truly show up in life and really seeing what it is. And then at the end of it, remembering like your power, and there's a lesson here and a diamond waiting for you, that you can learn something and share that with the world. And I will repeat that over and over. And because when you really look at it and through that lens, like it's just a beautiful story. What other story can we create anywhere? I don't know. But that to me, when you just look back, it's like, damn, that's powerful.
Mm. So much wisdom and so many gold nuggets, even for me, that's sort of on that step or on that journey of unpacking what happened to me. You've definitely given me a lot of advice and wisdom that I can integrate now as well. So if
Oh,
anyone out
wow.
there listening
Great.
and watching, I'm sure it's the same if they have the courage to walk through that door. But yeah, I feel a lot of my podcasts, Jenna, a lot of the guests, I feel like these are learnings for me. And today, yeah, I've been like holding back tears a couple of times, just going to be honest with you. And you've definitely helped me on a deeper level understand who I am and why I'm here. And I thank you for giving that to me, but also thank you for giving that to my audience as well. And you can tell I'm holding back a bit here. I'm gonna have to chat to you off air about some stuff you brought up because it's not quite ready to be shared yet. But I just want to say thank you for everything that you're doing, is what I'm trying to say in a long-winded way. Yeah, I really have. I can't even speak. You know
It
what I'm
brings me
trying to
great
just trying to
joy.
thank you for all that you've shared, and I'm
Yeah.
just sitting here going to be integrating some of this stuff and listening to this back, and I really appreciate you and what you're doing, and
Thank
yeah,
you.
I've definitely met you for a reason.
It brings me great joy, truly. And it's interesting because a lot of people that I talk to, a lot of people, 99% of them, I don't know why I'm telling you these things. And I'm like, because you're supposed to.
Mm.
And I am a safe space and a space holder specifically designed and made for you. God made me for you.
Yeah,
This is how
I felt
beautiful life
super
is.
yeah, I felt super comfortable sharing with you some stuff off air, and it's like I don't usually do that with everyone, but there is a space there that you hold, and I hope that shine. I think it has shown through this podcast today. If there's anything else you'd like to add to sort of summate this up, is there anything that you're willing to share that we haven't covered yet from today, and then finish where people can find you and the beautiful work you're doing? And I think I need to talk to you again.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for giving me the stage to do that. I feel like we covered so much within, and I love how we stuck more to the empowerment portion
Yep.
of this. I think sure everyone wants to hear the details and the horror of it, and not that sounds horrible to say, but some people really do. They want to hear that. They're
They
like, oh my
do.
god, like tell me more about this. And I have in a lot of the content that I've put out there, I had one specific video. It's called Naked and Uncut, where I literally just fucking let it out. And like I was the whole thing, I was just channeling and just and like it was absolutely nuts. But and it was about all the horror, it was about all the evil, it was about the how Islam does it. Well, I didn't actually talk about Islam on that one, but I mostly talked about Judaism and their satanic way of circumcising their boys. And to have a space to actually speak more into the spirit of who we are, and like we can't let these things, these dense feels, keep us degraded, like
Yeah.
everything in our life. I actually was telling my girlfriend the other day, I saw this funny video on Instagram. It was this guy and he has like his video on a 5G tower, and the beautiful sun is like shining on it. It's like right before sunset. It looks glorious. The sun does, not the 5G tower.
Yeah.
And but he's just like, he starts laughing and he's like, look at this fucking piece of shit. They are that afraid of us that they're putting up these ugly, they could care less about what these things are because they think that this thing is going to keep us stuck in the matrix. They're that afraid of us that they're going
hmm
to put one of these ugly things every square mile
hmm
and try to keep us in this EMF net of this nasty artificial grid. And it's just really kind of funny. And I can get easily lost in all the dark. I've gone down
Not the
all
only
the
one.
rabbit holes.
Not the only one.
And yeah, I know. And like, I mean, and you get stuck there,
You do.
but
Yep.
you get stuck there, and there's something about it that just like keeps drawing you in, but that starts taking our life force. And I tell a lot
Correct.
of people, yeah, I start telling a lot of people, like, particularly a lot of intactivists that are good friends of mine, but they're out there, they're on Facebook, they're on Instagram, they're on, I always call it Twitter. For some reason, I have a hard time calling it X. It's so
And
stupid.
TikTok,
But
probably.
anyway, TikTok, all of the
Yeah.
things. And they're just fighting and fighting and fighting. And then they have other people. I'm like, one, how many of those people are people and not bots?
Correct.
One. Two, the people that are coming out you have a vampiric energy. And it's intentional to drain and suck, almost like in Harry Potter. What are those things that suck all their energy out of them?
Hmm.
I always just see those guys, if you guys know what I'm talking about,
Yeah,
where
I do.
it's just like
Yep.
sucking and loose, taking all the loose, right? That's what
Yep.
they want. I sometimes I wonder whether they create some of these little psyops just to get all the people like us,
Yeah,
like
yeah. I've been
on
attacked a
it.
few times
You,
myself. Yep.
yeah, right. But like it's like I don't know. It's just really interesting. So for me, I'm just like as soon as you notice your power start to dwindle, as soon as you notice that you're trying to convince, and if you're out there and you are wanting to talk about it, remember that you have to have that energy boundary, that energetic
Yes.
boundary of wow, why do I need to prove myself to this person? One, they could be a bot. Two, they're not going to see it. Three, it might be an NPC. Four, it might be like bio weaponry that is like going against you, depending if you kind of know what I'm talking about in
I
terms
know
of
what
which
you're talking about.
grab. So you have to reserve, and to be the light and to be a light worker and to heal is to be of the light and to turn the light on. And as soon as something starts to turn your light off, you have to know when that happens, when to put it into it, and to really take care of yourself. Because if we are in spiritual warfare, we have to stay as pristine as possible. So I just had that inclination to share the importance of understanding your own energy boundary, to be sure that while we are speaking, while we are advocating for the freedom of males' genitals, which there's so many devices meant to keep it locked into brainwashing, locked into, I don't, whatever it is that it is. It's psychotic to think that people are still like excited about circumcision. So just offering that piece of advice while you're out there, if this is something, because some people it clicks and they're like, I have to go out there and do something about circumcision.
Yeah, well, that was me over the
Yeah.
last few years, and then come into this podcast. I feel like you were talking to me there just a little bit, and my audience too, but I feel like that was a message for
Mm-hmm.
me. But
Mm,
yes, Jenna, thank you so much for everything you've shared today. We are going to do this again. Where can people
yes.
find you?
You can find me on Instagram. I'll have you put that, I'll like give you my Instagram so I don't have to like tell it now. And it's just Jenna underscore McClelland underscore, if you know how to spell that. You
Yep.
can find me on my YouTube channel. You can find me on my website. I'm kind of moving actually websites right now. It's about to be alchemizewithjenna.com, but
Yep.
I still have jennamcclelland.co, and I'm going to merge them because I have a lot of resources. Like I have a lot of resources for people to go because people are always asking me questions. I'm like, just go to my site. Like I
Yep.
have hundreds of studies and information there.
Yep.
So usually right now, that's where you can find me. You can book a link, book a call with me on a Calendly link that's available on my website. And I'd love to talk to you and support you in any way that I can. Yeah.
I just want to reiterate what you said before. I'll circle back to what you said in that there are studies on her website and there is information out there that counteracts what you've been taught and shown and conditioned with. So if you're listening to this and you are a bit, you know, on the other side of the fence, well, I hope going to Jenna's website, you have an open heart and an open mind and read some of the things that are in there because there is information out there that is weaponized against you and it's not our information. They try and say that we're conspiracy theorists and tinfoil hat all this shit. Just have a read of Jenna's stuff with an open heart and open mind. The information is there if you're willing to read it. And if you are willing to read it, then listen to this back as well. And just make sure you have that open heart and open mind before you come at one of us too for what we've shared today.
Yeah.
Jenna,
Nathan, thank you
thank you
for
so
having
much.
me.
Thanks
Yeah,
so
it's a
much.
pleasure.
I feel like we're going to be doing this again soon because this topic is very important. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Okay.
I'll talk to you again soon. Thanks everyone for listening, watching wherever in the world you are. got some awesome guests in the pipeline. So I'll speak to you all soon. Cheers.